Hi, I'm Mary Rogers, and this is the Cuisinart 4-quart deep fryer. It's a nice, generous size, so if you're going to have a party and you want to do, like for a game day party, you want to do like fried chicken or chicken wings or a big batch of French fries, you can do donuts. There's so many great things you can cook in a fryer. Today we're going to do some buffalo chicken wings, which is one of my favorites. So let me show you the product. Here's your lid, has a nice, generous arch on the handle. It stays cool. It has a window, large window in the front. Also, it's vented here so that the moisture comes out while you're cooking, but the oil is kept inside because you're going to keep the lid on. This is your fry basket. And the fry basket, you can rest it on the side of the oil container to drain your food. Inside, there's also the heating element, which is immersed in the actual oil, and it's coiled through the oil very efficiently so that the temperature stays to the cooking temperature that you're using, and it also recovers very quickly once you put the food in. Because when you put your food in, the temperature of the oil will drop down, but you want it to come back up to temperature very quickly. That's important in making for really good fried foods. So the lid's back on. Here is your control panel. You have your power light and your ready light right on the top. The power light lets you know you have power. The ready light lets you know that it's up to the temperature that you chose. This fryer goes from 175 all the way up to 375. And today we're going to be frying at 375. On the right, on my right, your left, this is your timer. This timer, you just turn it, goes up to 30 minutes, and it will ring to let you know it's done. You can just twist it to disengage it. The other thing too is that it has nice handles on the side so that when you need to move your fryer around, it's really stable to use the handles. The other things that's important too is never move it while it's hot, always wait for it to cool off. The oil container inside is also completely removable, and it's 1 gallon. And there's a little spout here where you can pour off the oil to properly filter it and store it for use at a later time. The other thing is this is 1,800 watts of power for the fryer, and it also holds 2.3 pounds of food, and it's 4-quart capacity. So what we're going to do today is we're going to get started by making buffalo chicken wings, one of my favorites. I did live in Buffalo for about 10 years, so I've had the pleasure of having the authentic buffalo chicken wings. So I like to brine mine a little bit ahead of time, but make sure you pat them dry. I'm just adding them to the sauce, and we're just going to mix them up so that they're evenly coated. This is really simple and easy to do. It's a fun thing to make too when you have company. You can also, honestly, you could cook these in 12 to 15 minutes. It's a really fast and easy meal to make with a beautiful salad and some side vegetables. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get rid of this. I'm actually going to, just so I have a chance to put everything out evenly. You can dump them in if you want, but I'm just going to put them in the basket. And this obviously is going to, there's moisture in here, so. So obviously those wings were a little moist, so you can try patting them dry, but the liquid also is what makes the oil get quite hot. Anyway. Set the timer to 15 minutes, and we're going to come back and check on our chicken wings. Okay, let's check on our chicken wings. They look really great. So just shake off the excess liquid from the fry basket. You can let it sit on the side. Now what I'm going to do, we added the buffalo sauce beforehand, but just for a little added flavor, I like to dip them in the sauce again. Sometimes what I do is I'll put them in a food-safe container and give them a little shake around, and they'll get all nicely distributed. But so I'm just going to toss them. You can hear how nice and crisp they are. The other thing I want to mention too is I cleaned my tongs, and this is also fresh sauce that never touched the raw chicken. So make sure that's something that you pay attention to when you're frying. Never let the raw food touch food that you've cooked. So they smell really good. They're so simple and easy to make. You could have made a lot more than I made today, but they're really tasty. It's a fun thing to do when you're having game day or want to make a really quick meal during the week. You can have dinner done in 15 minutes, but it couldn't be easier than that. So there you have it, the Cuisinart 4-quart deep fryer.
Hi, I'm Chef Kevin Belton, and today we're gonna make empanadas. Now, to start this off, we're gonna start off making a dough. So we have butter, flour, sugar, and a little salt. So we'll put in a tablespoon of sugar into our butter, and our butter is nice and cold because we have to do what they call cut the dough. We'll do a couple of teaspoons of kosher salt, and now we'll get our flour in. This is just an all-purpose flour. And you know, when we cut the dough, if you look at this little instrument here, some folks can do it with a fork. You know, grandmothers can do it with a fork, but I need a little more help. Basically, we are making little bitty tiny balls. It's getting the butter to break up into the flour. This is what makes dough nice and light and flavorful, because we have a layer of flour with little butter mixed in there. Some folks do it with shortening. I like to do this recipe with a little butter. That's why we're gonna use butter today. But it keeps it nice and light. So now let's get the rest of our flour in. And that's okay, it's a little bit of a mess, and it takes a little bit of time to do. But you know, I tell you what, if you spend the time to make this dough, the filling that we're gonna make for this is gonna be so wonderful. Okay, that we have some great empanadas. As you can tell, as we've cut in our dough, little bitty dots, that's our butter mixing with our flour. Now, to go ahead and finish completing our dough, I have an egg, I have a little vinegar that we're gonna whisk together. And one of the other important things about making dough is putting water in that's cold. We're gonna do some really, really cold water and just get that whisked in. We'll just whisk that together. And now we'll pour this in with our flour, our butter, sugar, and salt. And we'll just take a fork and just work this together. And this is gonna make a nice dough for us. So just take your fork. You can see how this is all of a sudden starting to pull together. And you can turn your bowl as you work it in. As you can see, after putting that moisture in, everything is starting to pull together. Now, here's what we want to do. Let's take a little flour, put on our surface, and we're gonna pull our dough. Just pull it together. Put it onto your floured surface. And you know, put a little flour on your hands, and we're just gonna bring this together. We're gonna bring this together, and this is what's called kneading. When you hear about kneading the dough, it's just turning it, pressing it together, because what we want to do with this, once we get this kneaded, this has to go in the refrigerator for at least an hour to chill. Then we can roll it out and make our empanadas. So let's just knead this, just keep kneading it to get it worked together. You see how flaky it is? You can almost see like little individual layers. That's gonna keep this nice and flaky and light. So now I wanna go ahead, put this in clear wrap, and we'll refrigerate this for an hour. While we're doing that, we can start to work on our filling that'll go in these wonderful empanadas. Now, for our filling with our empanadas, in our skillet, we're going to start with a little olive oil. And you know, something for this, we're going to do a little sweet and savory. Here, I have some raisins. Our raisins will give us a little sweetness into that empanada. I love savory and sweet. You know, I tell you what, besides raisins, we're using regular raisins. You can use a golden raisin. You can also use a little dried cranberries in this if you would like. I also have a little red bell pepper. Now, we could go with red bell pepper. If you like the yellow, if you like the green, that's fine. But look at this vibrant color. You know, as bell peppers cook, if you check out their color, they'll get vibrant in color. Then when they start to caramelize, meaning the sugar starts to come out of them, then they'll start to get a little dull. But here, this is a nice vibrant color, and those flavors are opening up. A little bit of jalapenos. Now, here we're using jalapenos, where if you like, you can use a habanero, or a Scotch bonnet, or an ancho chili, any pepper that you like. It doesn't have to be very, very hot, okay? Now, I know you may say, boy, this is gonna really be spicy. But once we get everything in, you're gonna see how we have a nice, well balance of flavor. So a little bit of tomato, just some fresh diced tomatoes. Now that we have that little bit of tomato in, a little bit of salt. Salt just opens up flavors. Our raisins are sweet. That little bit of salt will open up the sweetness in that raisin. And a little green onion. Little spring onion, green onion. And this doesn't need to saute too long. Now, while this is sauteing off, let me show you what I have here in our bowl. Here, I have our pulled pork. Now, our pulled pork could be cooked in the oven. It could be cooked in a slow cooker, but I chose to do it in the Presto pressure cooker. So I cooked it for 45 minutes at 15 pounds of pressure. Look at this. It just pulled right apart. Now, into this, I sauteed onion, tomatoes, a little chili powder, a little cayenne, not very much. Put that in the pressure cooker and let it cook all together. Took it out after that 45 minutes once it cooled and just totally pulled it apart. So you see, our sweetness here and our spiciness here is going to complement this pork. So now that we have this sauteed, let's go in with a little tomato paste. Actually, we can go ahead and turn our fire off. Work in our tomato paste. And this tomato paste gets in. This is just a depth of flavor. You know, we put a little fresh tomato in. I cooked our pork with a little fresh tomatoes in. So now we can just take our pulled pork and just get it right on in there. See that sweet, the savory. And I didn't put too much seasoning on the pork because I knew I was going to be using jalapeno peppers here. So let's get a little bit more in. Oh, look at that. And basically, let's just stir this together just to get all those flavors worked in. All right. And lastly, for our filling, now that we have this worked in pretty nice, we're just going to do a little pepper jack cheese. All right. See how pretty that looks? See how everything, when you look around the pan, you see a little bit of raisin, you see a little bit of the green, you see a little bit of the red. That means everything is mixed thoroughly. Now we can just take our cheese and just kind of sprinkle it on over. Now, we have the cheese in. I don't have to stir in the cheese because as we put it in the filling, it'll get mixed in. Now, use the cheese that you like. Here we used a pepper jack, a cheddar, a white cheddar. If you like blue cheese, put the flavors in that you like. A manchego would work really great with this. So while this is cooling, let's get our dough and make our empanadas. Now, our dough has rested. We'll put a little flour on, and you know, we can actually take our hand and start to press this down. We're going to use a rolling pin to roll this out. You know, and as you start to roll, you can roll away from you. It's easier to probably roll toward you, but you know, it's easier to go away from you. That's a little better. So we floured our counter, And let's just roll this out. Now, you know, empanadas were thought to have been made originally in Spain. It's basically a meat pie that's filled. Here in Louisiana, we have great Natchitoches meat pies. You know, all around the country, everybody does a little something different. Where here we're doing savory and sweet, you could make a dessert empanada. Or just make it completely savory, or make two different types once you have your dough made. So you see how we roll this dough out, and we don't want it too thick because we want it to be able to cook. The filling inside has to be, even though it's already cooked, it just has to warm up, okay? So here we have this rolled out, just about a 1/4 inch thick. Now, let me show you a little trick. If you take a bowl, put a little flour just around the edge of it. Now, turn it over, press down. So now we pick it up and we go and make another one. And just give it a little press and give it a little twist. And, okay, our first one worked. All right, let's get our second one out. We can just pull this off, set this on the side. Okay, now, once you get them cut, if you think they're a little too thick, you can still just give them a little bit of a roll. That way they aren't too thick. Okay. Oh, this is going to be so good. I can't wait. And you know, here we're making a big family size empanada. Now, we're going to take a little filling, put a little bit of our filling right in the middle. Okay. We can do this on both of them. And you know what's nice with this? Some will have more cheese, some will have more raisins. You know, do them how you like. Now, like I said, we're making more of a family size. So now, fold this over. We're going to take a little water and just wet our dough. Just take your finger, wet one side of the dough, because this way, this will create a seal. So as we fold it over, okay, pinch it down to make sure you have all the air out of it, and then take your fingers and just turn and pinch, turn and pinch. And this is just crimping the edges. We packed it down nice and tight to make sure our filling doesn't come out and we have no air on the inside. That's what we want. Just turn, keep turning, and just crimp those edges. Now, this is a fairly nice size. If we want, we can make a small one. Now, we're going to use the Presto fryer for this. And you know, if you're making the small ones, we could cook those in a little smaller Presto Fry Daddy. But today, since we're doing a larger empanada, we're going to go ahead and cook this in our dual basket Presto Pro Fry. Press it down, take your hands and just form a little pocket just to make sure there's no air on the inside, okay? Now, I have set our fryer at 375 degrees. And you know, one of the most important things about frying is making sure the oil is hot enough. Because when you don't fry at the proper temperature, you put something in cold oil, it tastes greasy. And that's one of the great things about using the fryer is the fact that once we set that temperature, that light will go off and that lets us know our oil is up to temperature. Plus, when we fry, we don't want to crowd our fryer because this way our fryer will maintain that temperature throughout the cooking. So just one more time, give it a little press. And now, let's go ahead and get our empanadas in our fryer. Now, as you can see on our Presto Dual Basket Pro Fry, our light is off. We've set this at 375 degrees. When the light goes off, that means it's reached temperature. Now, when we put our empanadas in or fry anything, the temperature may drop a little. So if you see the light come back on, that's okay. The oil is just heating back up to maintain that perfect temperature. So let's get in our empanadas. So we'll put one in one basket, and we'll shake off any little excess flour, put it in the other basket, and now let's just lower them in. These will cook for 8 minutes. Halfway through, we're going to give them a turn so that they cook golden brown and everything inside cooks evenly. You know, This Presto unit has an 1800 watt immersion heating element. This helps maintain the oil at the proper temperature. Our empanadas have actually floated to the top. So now we're halfway through our cooking process. Let's give them a flip so that they cook evenly on both sides. Now, our empanadas are done. And I have to tell you, something great about this Presto Pro Fry dual basket is that here we can take our empanadas out, or whatever we happen to be frying, and let them rest right here. We don't have to worry about draining on paper towels because our baskets will do the draining for us. So now we can go ahead and put them on our plate. So let's take our tongs and just put it right on our plate. Oh, here, let's put this one to face this way. And you know, when things first cook, I always like to finish them off with just a tiny bit of kosher salt. So if we're gonna make appetizers and bite-sized empanadas, we can go ahead and use the Presto Fry Daddy. But for the empanadas that's gonna be a meal, let's go ahead and use our Presto Dual Basket Pro Fry Deep Fryer.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 yo, go, go, go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my grave. To the system, I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way, or the highway. And in the driveway is a nice range. Cause I grind through the climb, I invite pain. You'll never hear me, bitch, nah, I don't complain. Just gotta flip the switch and you can go and
Hi, I'm Teresa with Cuisinart, and here we have Cuisinart's deep fryer. This deep fryer holds up to 1.1 liters of oil, which is in there right now because we're going to deep fry some coconut shrimp. I'm going to place the basket inside of the deep fryer. It has an adjustable temperature control right up front with an on-off indicator light. When you turn it on, the indicator light will be red, and when it's ready to fry, when it's at the temperature, it turns green. And here's the adjustable temperature control. We're going to give this a few minutes. It also has a filter right in here that you can take out. You can actually remove from here and rinse it to get rid of all of the odors. It has a nice brushed stainless steel housing. And you can see the footprint is actually very small. It's also a perfect size for apartment dwellers or kids in college. Okay, so I think our coconut shrimp are now ready. Again, you can just pour them out of the basket into this plate. There we have deep fried coconut shrimp made in Cuisinart's deep fryer.